Welcome to the Go to War podcast with your host, John Paramore. Now it's time to go to war. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Go to War podcast. This is your host, John Paramore, and I'm going to flat out tell you today, I've said this maybe on a couple of other podcasts, maybe at the moment, it was true then, and this is true now. This is probably going to be one of the best podcasts I've ever done. I'm going to talk to you guys today about staying in your lane and focusing on the things that you're really, really good at, like your zone of genius, the area where you excel more than any other area in your life, and at the same time, how to delegate out everything else, how to put people around you that can handle everything else. If you're really, really good at doing a specific task, and you also know at the same hand, there's a whole lot of other things that you're not very good at, this podcast is going to be all about you staying focused on the things that where you excel, right? And staying away from the things that you're not very good at. And so I teed it up a little bit. If you go back and you listen to the last podcast, and I'm talking about you don't lack the resources, you lack the resourcefulness, that was me teeing it up to this podcast. What I'm going to go through in this podcast is going to be like nothing I've ever talked about. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty, the secrets, the things that rapidly propel companies that I work with forward and people that I work with forward. Okay. So just like every other podcast that I do, I need to do a little bit of homework, right? The homework that I'm doing is simple. If you get something out of this podcast, when you get something out of this podcast, grab a hold of it, share it, put it out, get this message out to other people. I have recently found out that this podcast is being heard in several different countries all over the U.S. I wouldn't say that we have like a gigantic amount of subscribers right now, but it's spreading quickly. And I want you to be a part of that. That's something that I don't know if I don't like the word expectation, but if you're listening to this podcast on a regular basis, you're getting something from it and you're not sharing it, like for real, man, don't hold this stuff to yourself. Help get this out to other people because other people need this stuff too. The second part of the homework that I go over every single time is from time to time, a little bit of salty language used in this podcast. If you get butthurt over people saying the word fuck or shit or damn or piss or whatever, and you're one of those people that are going to end up leaving a negative review because you don't really think I don't think it's professional to use those kind of words. Well, fuck off. This podcast isn't for you. So don't listen to it. That's fine. Okay. So now that stuff is out of the way, if you're still here, I'm just going to assume that this is something that you want, something that you need, and you're interested in hearing it forward. So away we go. Okay. For the last 20 years as an entrepreneur, I've come across a lot of different people that excel in one specific thing. They have a specific skill set that they are probably the best at or really, really good at. And they mess that thing up by trying to do a whole bunch of things that they're not good at, right? And I know that's not the best language, the best use of the English. Oh, you're good at something, or what are you good at? I don't like ending sentences in prepositional phrases, so fuck off if that's a problem for you. But what I'm saying is this: if you have something where you excel, you know deep inside of you, this is the thing that I love. This is the thing that I'm so good at this thing, but I'm hindered by all the other stuff that's going on. Specifically, if you're a business owner, specifically if you're an employee and you're working somewhere where you're not using that one talent, that one thing where you're like, damn, I'm good at this. This podcast is for you, because what I want you to do from today going forward is I want you to focus on the thing like that, deep down inside, this is who you are. This is who you are. This is what you are built for. You knew as a kid, this is what you were meant to do. You've known your entire life. You've got a gift in a specific area. And up until now, you've kind of just been hosing yourself a little bit because you're trying to wear multiple hats and do multiple things. In an earlier podcast, I also talked about don't water yourself down for other people. This is like the second part of that. This is the second part to how do you not water yourself down? How do you begin to allow yourself to focus only on the things where you excel every single day, day in and day out, without being worried about all the other things that you have to do in your life? This is how you do it, okay? one of the main things that I do with my clients early on when we start working together is this thing called a time study. And inside the time study, what I have them do is I have them focus on writing down the things that they do for 4 days, every half an hour for 4 days. And inside the time study, what happens is, and we've talked about this, we've touched on this a little bit before, what happens is they realize that they're doing a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing, and they're not being able to stay focused on the things that they should be doing. So if you are one of the people that took advantage of the time study that we were talking about before, this is going to start to make a lot of sense. If you didn't, and you're listening to this again and you're like, oh, I think I remember him talking about that time study, but you didn't really do anything with it, you want to go back and find that podcast and listen to it there, because I'm not going to go super deep into the time study today. I'm using it as an example, okay? So what we found inside that time study, for those of you that did it, and for those of you that are now listening to it, is that people very fast and very clearly start to realize they're wasting a lot of time. They're pissing away a lot of time in the day because they're not focused on a thing that brings them a lot of joy. So it's causing them issues going forward. The fastest way, if you're an entrepreneur, that you start getting your time back, you start getting more of your time, is you have to delegate. You have to become a master at delegation. You have to become a master at the discipline of only doing the things that you know serve you well. You have to be a master at focusing on your strengths. So I'll give you an example. If I'm really, really good at whiteboarding ideas, I'm really, really good at breaking down areas in companies that aren't working correctly. I'm really, really good at envisioning systems and processes and things to make companies run smoother. If you ask me to go in and build those processes and systems and whatever, once I envision them, that's where I break down. It's not that I can't do those things. It's just that that's not my zone of genius. That's not the area where I excel. There's things that I can do. It's just not the area where I excel. So I learned a long time ago, I got to focus in the areas where I can best serve the people that I come in contact with, and I can feel most fulfilled for who I am. So as an example, the podcast that I'm doing right now, this is something that I love, right? So when I get in here and I shoot one of these podcasts are not rehearsed. They're not like programmed or pre-scripted or any of that stuff. This is me doing what I love. This is me coming in here, taking information and giving it to you guys in a very raw manner while doing what I love. That's the reason why. So I've had people ask me, dude, how do you get in here and just like cold turkey rip a podcast? Well, it's because I love it, right? It's because I genuinely love doing these podcasts. You don't hear a lot of me and pausing and sounding like I'm forcing the issue. It's because I love doing these podcasts, okay? Now, I will tell you in a little bit different light, I also write a lot of content. Those of you that follow me on social media know that I write a lot of content. Writing content is very difficult for me. Most of the time, to write a post that is what's called a long form post, that takes me 35 to 40 minutes. Why does it take me so long? Well, because unlike me ripping out a podcast in here, writing a post is a methodical thinking process. When I got to get into that area where I got to methodically think about something and try to say it a certain way and try to position it so that you guys really get it, because you're trying to judge tonality when you're reading, and we typically read from where we are and not where the other person is, and all of that stuff has to be thought about, right? So going forward, as the company evolves, what I will end up doing is hiring someone that takes my verbal of what I'm trying to communicate, and they take that and transcribe it and build that into a long form post. Now, coming back around to what we were talking about a minute ago, the reason why I do that is because I've identified that as one of my weaknesses. So what I don't want to keep doing as I build the company forward, eventually I'll run out of time. Eventually I'll run into a place where my capacity has maxed out its ability. My capacity has gotten to the point where I have nothing left as far as time to give. And what if I keep going down that path, the problem that I'm going to run into is if I don't delegate specific tasks off and I hold those things close to me as though I can't find someone else to do it, my bandwidth gets maxed out. For those of you guys that are listening, I bet there's some of you that are like, fuck, I'm already to that place. I'm already to the place where I can't do anymore. I'm already to the place where I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm already to the place where I don't have any more time in the day to give. That is your body, mind, spirit telling you it's time to start delegating these things off. And that's a scary place, right? Because sometimes when you want to delegate things off, you don't necessarily have the financial means at the time to do that, right? So you got to go back. One of the podcasts I did earlier, I talked about the 5 boxes: marketing, sales, operations, production/fulfillment, and hiring. You got to go back and say, okay, if I don't have the financial means to delegate things off, I got to go create financial means. That's the first 2 boxes, marketing and sales. I got to go strengthen my marketing and sales side of things. Then I can start building the financial means and resources to start delegating some of these other things off, right? Okay, so the point of this entire podcast is that you can't keep focusing on the things where you're weak, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to arrive to a place where you no longer feel fulfilled, and in the meantime you're inadvertently on accident building a prison around yourself that you're trapping yourself in, and trying to get free from that. The more you do it, the harder it gets. So as you grow your company, you got to keep saying to yourself, okay, I got to start delegating things off. How do I start delegating things off? I segment out what I'm doing. I start getting clear about what I'm doing that I'm not enjoying. I also start getting clear about what the things that I'm doing that someone else would be better at doing. I think one of the, I'm dumping so much on you guys today, I know, okay? But stick with me. I think one of the things that I learned when I was a young entrepreneur was the feeling of I got to delegate some of this stuff off, but I don't have the financial means to do it right now. What I learned from that was when I went and hired somebody that had the ability to do something better than I could in a specific area, what it did was free me up to go do more of the things that I was really good at. So for instance, let's say some of you listening right now are really, really good at sales. You can generate revenue like the back of your hand, but you're finding right now you don't have much time to go generate revenue because you're so focused on revenue generation, making sure that whatever you generate on a sale gets fulfilled, and then making sure that some kind of process in the middle happens, whatever, okay? If you go find those people, even if you're revenue strapped, if you go find those people that can do some of the operations things because you're really good at sales, your time frees up for you to go do more sales. And that's a really hard, that's a scary concept for a lot of people to really understand. But you're not gonna move yourself forward if you don't go do it. If you stay stuck and you keep doing the things that you hate because you feel like that you have to, you're not gonna move yourself forward. Let's say it's the flip. What if you're really good at operations and you suck at sales? And so you're trying to keep revenue coming in and you're trying to do sales as best you can, but you love the operational side of it. Then you got to go hire somebody who's a badass at sales, because that person's going to go out and find revenue while you're focusing on operating the company and pushing the company forward and things like that. It doesn't really matter what the position is. It doesn't really matter what the thing is that you need done. You got to go create leverage and partnerships and focus on finding somebody that's your opposite, finding somebody that's strong where you're weak. And I think one of the greatest attributes of a legit entrepreneur that's really going to make it is they've identified where they're weak. They don't deny where they're weak, and they start trying to find partnerships or leveraging partnerships or other people or other processes to offset their weakness. I think that's one of the greatest signs of an authentic entrepreneur is they realize they can't do it all themselves. They shouldn't do it all themselves. And there's people out there that can help them grow faster, be stronger, move better if they were to partner up or leverage some things and start working together. Because you got to understand, if you're really good at sales, you're not great at operations, but there's people out there that are really great at operations that are not good at sales. You have to leverage your strength and stop pretending like your weaknesses are what guide you. They're not. It's your strengths that guide you. It's your strengths that make the company stronger. It's your strengths that make the things go faster and all that stuff. And if you keep focusing on where you're weak and you keep thinking, oh, I got to get better where I'm weak, you're just going to stay stuck. So the key and the point of all this is you have to identify where you're strong. You have to identify where you're weak. You have to start leveraging those things and putting those things out and delegating them off so that you can begin to take the company forward. So I hope this is starting to resonate with some of you, because I'm hearing a lot of conversations about what do I do specifically from smaller business owners? What do I do when I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm trying to scale the company. I've got guys that are like, I'm in the field most of the day. So catching up on other things at night. And meanwhile, like we've talked about before, they're sacrificing the life they actually want to live because they think that this is how it has to be, and it's not, right? And in the last podcast, we talked about how people make things harder than they really have to be. This is one of the things. This is another example of that. We want you to stay focused on your strength and stay focused on the areas where you're strong and stay focused on growing the company and being who you really are, and not freaked out or worried about the things where you don't excel, right? I'll give you like one more story just to really drive this home. I know this woman that's out there right now that's working to build several different layers outside of a business where she's very proficient and solid inside of a business, but it's not really where she wants to be. It's not really where she knows she's going to feel the most fulfilled, but there's this level of comfort that is masking, perhaps is the right word, what she really wants to do. The only way that she's ever going to become who she really is, the only way that she's really going to feel fulfilled and doing what she really wants to do, is she's going to have to let go of the comfort. That's it. She's going to have to understand that she can't continue to be focused on the areas where she's not strongest. She's going to have to let go of those things. She's going to have to let go of the comfort. She's going to have to be willing to take a risk and jump to the next level in order to feel truly fulfilled. And the only way that she's going to do that is for her to fully diagnose what her strengths are, really, really, really believe, get that